My sister's husband struck her while she was pregnant, right in front of his entire family. She fell, unconscious. I abandoned a $36 million deal to be by her side. What happened next still lingers in my mind. I'm Vanessa, 30, female. For most of my adult years, I've been the pillar of strength, the one who resolves crises, the one who steps up when others don't. But nothing could have braced me for the call that shattered my world that day, the call that broke everything apart. My younger sister, Olivia, 28, was always the gentler soul, warm, overly forgiving, and endlessly kind. She married Jason, a man our family had doubts about from the start. There was something unsettling about him. Too domineering, too polished in speech, with smiles that never felt genuine. But Olivia was smitten, or so she believed. They'd been married 2 years, and Olivia was 8 months pregnant, just days from her due date. She radiated a quiet joy, as if she'd found calm at last. But I sensed something was off. Her voice carried a nervous edge during our talks. She'd insist everything was fine, but her words faltered, or she'd quickly shift topics. Once, I noticed faint bruises on her wrist. She claimed she'd hit a cabinet Jason had slowly cut her off from the world. She relocated across the state to be near his family. She drifted from friends, missed family gatherings, and stopped joining our calls. Even when I tried to visit, she'd find reasons to avoid me. Only recently had she started reconnecting, sending me pictures of the baby's room and asking about names. She never directly mentioned abuse, but she didn't need to. I knew. That week I was in New York finalizing a massive deal. $36 million, a year-long project with a client that could transform my firm's future. I'm a senior consultant and investment partner. These opportunities don't come easily. It was the kind of deal that could redefine my career. The meeting was set for 3 p.m. I was in the boardroom going over the final slides when my phone vibrated. It was Olivia's mother-in-law, someone I'd barely spoken to. I ignored it, thinking it was a mistake. Then it rang again. This time, a nurse was calling from Olivia's phone. I stepped out, irritated, to answer. But the words I heard stole my breath. Your sister's in the ER. She arrived unconscious. Severe trauma to her abdomen. We're preparing for an emergency C-section. I stood frozen. What? How? What happened? There was a pause on the line, then the nurse whispered it wasn't an accident. Someone struck her. Hard. Witnesses say it was her husband, in front of his family. The world tilted. Everything faded. The deal, the meeting, the future I'd fought for. None of it mattered. I didn't say a word to my team. I walked out of the building, left my laptop behind, and called a car to the airport. On the way, I booked the next flight to Charlotte, where Olivia lived. In the car, the reality sank in. My hands shook. This wasn't just a fight. Jason struck her, while she was 8 months pregnant, and not behind closed doors. In front of his entire family. What kind of people just stood by and watched? The flight passed in a haze. I kept imagining Olivia on a hospital bed, pale and still. Her baby's fragile life at risk. I didn't know if I was rushing to hold her hand or to say goodbye. When I reached the hospital, a nurse with red-rimmed eyes met me. She's stable now, she said, but we had to do an emergency C-section. The baby's in the NICU. She hasn't woken up yet. I don't recall how I reached her room. I walked in and saw my little sister lying there, bruised, pale, connected to machines. Her belly, once round with life, now stitched and hollow. She looked so small, so vulnerable, so shattered. I sat beside her, took her hand, and for the first time in years, I sobbed like a child. I stayed with her all night. Around 3 a.m., I saw Jason's family in the corridor. His mother, his brother, his uncle. Talking as if waiting for a routine appointment. I stood, stormed over, and demanded answers. What happened? Jason's mother looked at me like I was being dramatic. It was just a family disagreement, she said. Olivia got emotional. Jason hardly touched her. She's always been theatrical. I couldn't believe her words. I wanted to shout. Instead, I asked, "Where is he?" She shrugged. "With a lawyer." The police were asking questions, but we told them it wasn't a big deal. Not a big deal? My sister nearly died. Her baby almost didn't survive, and all they cared about was protecting their son. I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Tell me exactly what you saw," I said. From the moment Jason raised his foot, her expression shifted. She knew. They all knew. I sent the video to the hospital's legal team and requested they preserve all medical records. I called a lawyer friend, an expert in domestic violence cases, and put her on alert. I wanted everything documented, and pursued. Olivia didn't wake until the next day. When she did, her first words were, "Is the baby okay?" I broke down. "Yes," I whispered. "She's small, but she's resilient, just like her mom." Olivia looked away, and I saw it. The shame, the pain, the quiet guilt victims carry when they believe they're at fault for someone else's cruelty. You don't have to shield him anymore, I said softly. You don't. Not after this. She didn't speak, but tears rolled down her face. And that's when I knew this had been happening far longer than anyone realized. And I wouldn't let him or his family escape accountability. Olivia stayed silent for days after waking. She wouldn't talk much, clung to my hand, and refused to let anyone else near. She wouldn't even glance at her in-laws when they lingered by her door. I didn't push her for details, not yet. Her body and heart had endured too much. But 2 days later, I found her staring at the ceiling, eyes wide. She looked drained but resolute. She whispered, I covered for him for so long. He said if I spoke out, I'd be alone, that no one would believe me, that he'd take the baby. I stayed quiet, letting her speak. It started 6 months into the marriage, she said. He'd hit me where marks wouldn't show. His mother told me to be more compliant, more understanding, more patient. They said pregnancy made me irrational, that I was overreacting. She took a trembling breath. That day he was screaming at me in front of everyone. I asked if we could leave the party early. His mom scoffed, said I was always seeking attention. Then he lost it. He kicked me hard. His uncle chuckled. His brother looked away. I was stunned, sickened. They watched it happen, yes, and no one helped. No one. I collapsed and blacked out. The last thing I heard was his mom saying I spoiled the atmosphere. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to tear their world apart. Instead, I held her hand and spoke the truth. They're not your family, Olivia. They never were. But I am, and I'm here for you. That night, I spoke to my lawyer friend, Jenna. She explained Olivia could press charges, criminal and civil. We could pursue Jason for domestic violence, harm to an unborn child, and reckless endangerment. We could also seek a restraining order to keep him and his family away from her and the baby. But Olivia wavered. I'm scared, she whispered. What if he takes her? What if he wins? He won't, I vowed, not with me here. The next morning, we filed for an emergency protection order. The hospital backed us, and the police, after reviewing the nurse's statements and Olivia's condition, issued a warrant for Jason's arrest. But it wasn't over. Jason's family hired a lawyer and told the police Olivia had a history of fainting, that she'd gotten upset and collapsed. They claimed there was no kick, no violence, just a misunderstanding. They tried to paint it as an emotional outburst. I was furious. They were burying the truth with lies and paperwork. I called Jenna and said, let's go public. Within 48 hours, we gathered everything. Medical reports showing abdominal trauma inconsistent with a fall. Neighbors' security footage showing Olivia, bruised and unable to walk, being helped into a car. And private messages from party guests too afraid to speak publicly but confirming Jason's actions. I made a strategic move. I posted an open letter on LinkedIn, a carefully crafted but sharp statement about domestic abuse, power imbalances, and protecting silenced women. I didn't name names, but my business network connected the dots. It spread rapidly. Reporters started calling. Jason's family's confidence faltered. Their PR team tried to counter, claiming Olivia was unstable, fabricating stories to ruin Jason's reputation. But they didn't know I had resources, time, and rage. I wasn't just her sister. I was her shield. When Jason was arrested, it hit the local news. But the turning point came when I visited the NICU with Olivia. The baby, a tiny girl named Amelia, was fragile but held Olivia's finger with surprising strength. Jason hadn't even asked about her. When Olivia held Amelia close and whispered, I'm sorry I let you get hurt before you were born, I knew she'd crossed a threshold. She wasn't afraid anymore. Meanwhile, Jason's family tried to claim custody, arguing Olivia was unfit and they were better guardians. That was the last straw. I hired a private investigator. What we uncovered dismantled their case. Jason's uncle had 2 sealed domestic violence charges. His mother had forced a housekeeper into an NDA after an incident. And Jason had a hidden juvenile record, assault, theft, and threats against an ex-girlfriend. We presented it all in court. Jenna dismantled their defense in depositions. The judge issued a permanent no-contact order. Olivia retained full custody. Jason was denied bail pending trial, but Olivia had changed. She wasn't just healing. She was rebuilding. One evening, she asked quietly, do you ever regret leaving that deal? I smiled, though my eyes burned. No. I can secure another $36 million deal. But there's only one you. She cried then, not from pain, but because she finally felt chosen, and I had chosen her. Every day I would. But just when we thought the worst was over, a new document arrived. Jason's family had filed a counter-lawsuit. Defamation. They demanded millions. Then I found something in Olivia's drawer that changed everything. A flash drive. Labeled with one word, backup what was on it? I'll never forget. I found the flash drive by chance, tucked behind Olivia's pregnancy papers in a folder she hadn't touched since before the hospital. That single word, backup, made my stomach churn. I plugged it into my laptop late at night, alone in the living room, hands trembling with anticipation. What I saw left me shaken. It was a hidden folder of videos. Olivia had secretly recorded moments in their home, grainy, low-quality footage from her phone, and a small USB camera hidden in the nursery. The audio was faint, but the content was chilling. Jason, screaming at her, hurling insults too vile to repeat, calling her worthless, a burden. One video showed him pushing her, hard. In another, he held her phone and shouted, "If you tell anyone, you'll lose it all. I'll make sure they take the kid. You'll be nothing." The worst was recorded 10 days before the assault. Jason's voice was calm at first, delivering threats in that eerie tone abusers use before they snap. Then it escalated. Olivia said something too quiet to hear, and he lunged. She screamed, crying, curled up, apologizing to him. It shattered me. These weren't just fights. They were proof. Legal evidence of manipulation, emotional torment, and physical abuse. I sent everything to Jenna immediately. By morning, she'd submitted the videos to the court. The defamation lawsuit dismissed within hours. But the judge went further, ordering an urgent review of the criminal case, adding charges of aggravated battery, premeditated abuse, and child endangerment. Jason's carefully built world crumbled. His family tried to backpedal, claiming they were unaware, victims of his lies too. But it was too late. One video even captured his mother telling Olivia to stop being a dramatic child when she said she feared him. The court didn't just believe Olivia now. They knew. We also discovered Jason's family had moved large sums of money between accounts after the hospital incident, likely hiding assets. But I'd hired forensic accountants. Every dollar was traced. On the day of the criminal trial, Olivia stood with me beside her, holding Amelia calm and steady. She testified, her voice clear, each word heavy with pain but unwavering. When asked how long she'd feared for her life, she didn't hesitate. Every day of that marriage, she said. The courtroom fell silent. Jason sat there in a crisp shirt, feigning innocence, but the jury saw through him. He was convicted on all charges, sentenced to 15 years, no parole for the first 10. The judge's words stayed with me. This court sees a pattern of abuse enabled not just by the defendant, but by his family. The evidence shows a concerted effort to silence a victim. That will not be tolerated. Jason's family faced civil penalties for witness intimidation and perjury. His mother lost custody of her adopted niece after child services investigated. Their once respected family name became a scandal. And Olivia, she started to live again. It wasn't instant. The wounds were deep. She struggled with sleep, with trust, with quiet moments. But she began therapy, joined a support group, and moved in with me. We built a home rooted in love and safety, not wealth. One night, months after the trial, she walked into my office with Amelia asleep on her shoulder. "You saved me," she whispered. "You gave up everything for me." I smiled. "I didn't give up anything. I chose you, you and her. And I'd do it again every time." She laughed softly, tears in her eyes. "I didn't deserve you." "You didn't deserve him," I said. "But you always deserved me." I eventually closed another $36 million deal. Not the same one, but a new one. Because for me, success was never about money. It was about having the power to protect those I love when the world fails them. I lost some business connections. Jason's family had influence I hadn't anticipated. Some partners walked away. Some investors backed out. But it didn't matter. I watched Amelia take her first steps in my living room. I saw Olivia smile without fear. I saw a woman rise from ruin. And every time I see them now, safe and free, I'm haunted not by the past, but by what could have been if I hadn't answered that call. If I'd chosen a deal over my sister. That's what lingers. That's why I'll never stop fighting, because no one else stood up for her, so I did.